1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the show. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am one of your hosts, Honeybee.
Honeybee today, and for the next 2 weeks, we are looking at the Daimajin series of films.
Is it two separate words like Daikaiju, Daimajin, or is it one word?
I mean, it's a compound word, I guess. It's one word,
Okay.
but they call him Majin. It means great demon god or giant demon
Great.
god.
Okay.
It is like Daikaiju. It's the same form of the word Dai.
Okay.
In front of the word Majin, which means a demon god, but it also can have other meanings like a sorcerer, or it's a word that apparently has more than one meaning, but all the meanings are supernatural in nature.
Okay.
So there's 3 of these movies. They were filmed back to back and all released in 1966.
Is that why they're all the exact same movie? Question mark.
They're pretty similar. Yes, they're all written by Tetsuro Yoshida,
Mm-hmm.
which I found a little odd because there's some inconsistency, which we will get to. I think they all have the same director. Let me check. No, the first one is directed by Kimiyoshi Yasuda.
Mm-hmm.
Kenji Masumi directs the second one, and Keizu Mori directs the third. I don't know if that has anything to do with them being all filmed back to back, or possibly all at the same time. You've got 3 directors. None of the cast members are the same. So you could be filming all 3 of these at the same time in different places. The music is by Akira Ifukube, but
Ew.
this is not a Toho production. This is a Dai production. Same people that did Gamera, but a much different tone than Gamera.
Oh, God.
So these are a very... I just find it odd that they made 3 of these all at once and then none ever again.
I'm really glad, honestly.
Okay. They're fairly obscure, and they are certainly very unusual for kaiju movies. So, Honeybee, why don't you tell the folks what's so unusual about them?
Well, I'll tell you, for me personally, why I do not like these movies. There is, for most of the movie, a lot of violence and murders, which we normally see, but not from other humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't find this entertaining in any way. The whole movie was just really hard to watch, and kind of like, I just don't, it's not that the movies aren't good. They're just not entertaining. The story, watching these people fight and kill each other, and all the human shit for me was just like, I'm like, I just don't like it. It's like the same thing as like, I won't watch shows like Breaking Bad or Shameless because it's just like not entertaining to me that this is like a real life kind of thing, you know? Like, it's just too, like, I just don't want to watch things like that for entertainment. So for me, there's just too much human shit going on in these movies and not enough other shit.
But you haven't quite addressed the reason for that.
What do you mean?
The reason is that these are samurai movies that have a kaiju at the end.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Unlike all the rest of the movies we've seen so far, these 3 movies are all period pieces. They are set in the Sengoku period, the Warring States period of Japan, which lasted from 1467 to 1615. They're samurai movies.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, because that makes sense that like that if you sit down to watch a samurai movie, you expect a lot of fighting, like humans fighting.
Yeah.
Like you expect that.
Yeah.
I just going into this, I was like, when we see like the death and destruction in the other movies and we're like talking about the kill count and all these things, it's kind of like I feel detached from it. It's like entertaining, it's fun. This movie was just like, I was just like, I did not enjoy like all the fighting and the killing and the war and the, yeah, I just did not enjoy that. It was a real bummer.
Fair enough. So yeah, this is what makes these movies different from it's not like I'm doing Passover. What makes this movie different from all other nights? They're period pieces, they're samurai movies. They have a different tone than all the rest of the kaiju movies, and they also have a different type of kaiju in that I think this is the first just straight up supernatural kaiju that we've seen. You know, there's a little bit of kind of religious psychic stuff with Mothra, but Mothra is still a physical creature that lives in the world and is born and dies. Mm-hmm. And some of these other monsters, they're dinosaurs that have been awakened, or they're things that have come from outer space, but they're still physical creatures in the physical world. Whereas Daimajin is just a straight up supernatural spirit or god or something that responds to prayers in a way, even though you could argue that Mothra responds to prayers, but Mothra is physically there hearing the prayers. But speaking of gods and spirits and things, the theology of these movies is a little all over the place, which is why I found it odd that they were all written by the same guy.
That's pretty funny. He's like, let's just try this one, see how this works a little bit. Let's try this, see if this works a little bit.
Yeah, it's unclear what exactly Daimajin is, because in the first movie, they talk about a good god that has imprisoned the bad god. And it kind of seems like the statue is the good god that has trapped the bad god inside of it.
Yeah. Or inside the mountain or something.
Yeah. And if the statue's destroyed, the bad god will get out. But that's not exactly what we see happen. And then in the other two movies, Daimajin just is the god, and there's not a second god. Yeah. It's very weird. Well, let's go ahead and get into the summary, which I got off of Wikipedia.
All right.
In a remote village in the province of Tanba, a household of peasants cowers during a series of earth tremors that are interpreted as the escape attempts of Arakatsuma, also known as Daimajin. So Daimajin, as we said, means great demon god. So that seems to be more of a category than a specific person. And the name of this specific demon god is Arakatsuma. But they only say it like once, I think, in the movie.
Yeah, one person one time says, Arakatsuma will come.
And they don't mention it in the other two movies.
Yeah.
Also known as Daimajin, a violent divine spirit said to be trapped within the nearby mountain, held in fear and reverence by the locals. As the village gathers at the local shrine to perform an ancient ritual to pacify Daimajin, Odate Samanosku, played by Ryataro Gomi, chamberlain to the local lord Hanabusa Tadakio, played by Ruzio Shimada, stages a coup d'etat, which is a very samurai movie thing to do. I mentioned this was called the Warring States period. There was just constantly feudal lords fighting amongst each other, or constant civil war, and everybody trying to become emperor and overthrow everybody else for a couple hundred years. He and his henchmen slaughter Hanabusa and his wife, but their son and daughter escape, aided by the heroic samurai Kogenta, played by Jun Fujimaki.
A babe, just saying.
You liked his looks, did you?
I did. I was like, ooh, what's up, ponytail?
Did he have a little shaved front head?
No, he didn't.
He didn't, okay. So maybe helped a little bit. Back at the shrine, Samanosku's men break up the ceremony, forbidding all such gatherings in the future. So yeah, leading up to this, the good samurai is explaining to his son about there's a good God, and the people are praying to him, and he will protect us, and the whole village is out to pray, and he sends his he doesn't go himself to the ceremony, but he tells his chamberlain to go to represent him, and the chamberlain meets with his henchmen to stage a coup instead. So yeah, they stab him and the kids get away. And then they break up the ceremony, forbidding all such gatherings in the future. The elderly priestess, Shinobu, played by Otami Tsukimiya, issues a dire warning, but the men ignore her. Kogenta takes the two children to his aunt Shinobu, the aforementioned priestess, her house. The priestess takes them up the mountain into forbidden territory, where a gigantic stone idol of the mountain god who had sealed Daimajin long ago stands half buried atop a waterfall. Near this idol is an ancient temple, safe as only Shinobu knows of its existence. So the giant statue basically looks like a samurai himself in full armor. He's got a helmet and chest plate and, little samurai skirt armor and a sword, and he's the whole thing. And a very blank-looking face, which comes into play later. The children grow to adulthood.
Yeah, so wait a second. Before we go to adulthood, before we get there, when Kogenta is taking the kids and they're like going through all of this and they're like fighting, and he's like, we gotta hide these kids because they want to kill this family, right? The whole family, like even the kids, because they're like royalty, some bloodline of some sort, right? Right before they escape, the kids and Kogenta, they all make a pact.
Yes.
Kogenta and the rest of the what is it?
The loyal followers.
Yes, that if they survive, that they'll meet back at this place in 10 years.
Yes.
Okay, that was it. That's all I had. Yeah.
Okay.
Before we got to the 10 years later.
Because you should always wait 10 years before you try a counter coup. You shouldn't just go get some help and come back in a week. You should wait 10 years.
Yeah, so they do. They hide out for 10 years with the aunt, Kogenta, Shinobu, both the babies, and now they are adults. Here we are, 10 years later. I will say too, whenever the people come into the priestess's quarters to like search it for Kogenta and the children, she says something about this is sacred ground, or she's like, oh, I serve God, so like take your shoes off, don't soil my space with your dirty feet. And the reason why this is repeated in the next movie as well, a priest says the same line in the next movie as well.
I'm not sure I noticed that. I do remember noticing somebody saying it.
Yeah, it was it's like this movie, they're so parallel. These first two movies, there's so much in them where it's like, wow, this is the exact same. It's just so strange.
Oh, they also, I think when they're threatening her, somebody says, because I wrote this down, a woman without fear? No wonder you can live alone and serve the god. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
I also wrote that down. But yeah, she says like, this is sacred ground. You'll anger the god.
Yeah. And I found it very weird that they just kept saying our god and didn't give it a name.
Yeah. When they're doing the ceremony, she also says that it's a ceremony to seal Daimajin in to the mountain, that they have to finish the ceremony because it's to seal him in the mountain. So I'm just so confused about this whole situation with the
I think when she says seal, I think she means, reinforce the seal that's already there. He's stirring, so it's starting to break, and they have to give it a fresh coat of magical sealant. So I believe, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that at this time and place they're practicing Shintoism, which is polytheistic and has ideas of the supernatural being in all things. So there might be all kinds of a mountain spirit and a river spirit, and maybe even this tree has a spirit. But I think it has specific gods, and a lot of them might be very local gods. But I just found it really weird that they didn't have a name for their god. They were so unspecific about our god, and who he was.
Yeah.
So anyway, the kids grow up. The son, Tadafumi, who is now played by Yoshihiko Aoyama, reaches his 18th birthday. The years have been miserable for the villagers, but, gotta wait 10 years before you do anything about it. Samanosuke is a brutal leader. In one scene, he gouges out an old woman's eye with a red-hot iron hook. At least that's what the summary says. I'm not sure I remember that scene.
I also don't know that.
Who is using every man in the starving village as slave labor. Maybe it got cut. Maybe it's in a director's cut. The place is ripe for revolution, and surviving Hanabusa retainers are starting to return. So yeah, he's making them all build some kind of fort or expand the fort that's already there. And they're just all freaking miserable. And there's this one guy whose son comes looking for him because mom's at home sick, but he is not allowed to go home and see to his wife. And the kid is allowed to go back and forth, but the adult men are being forced to work. And eventually he comes back with news that mother died.
Yeah, his grandfather finally pulls him aside and tells him that none of them can leave until the fort is built.
Yeah.
And the guy who's enforcing this is beating the shit out of old people and stuff and making them work. It's all very sad. This about this part when the little boy is you have to come home, mom's dying. I was this movie is a little bit too much for me emotionally, because it was just so much bad thing after bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. And it's there isn't a lot happening that isn't death, destruction, this slavery. Now we're beating up old people. Now the mom is dying. I was just oh my gosh. And it just goes on this way for a good hour. That's all that is happening.
There's a part where they spot some of the retainers who've come back and they, run away. And some of the villagers, the enslaved villagers, help them escape, get in trouble for it, and one of the old men gets killed. He steps forward and takes the blame for it, and they kill him right there. Kogenta journeys to the village to try to gather the old retainers, but gets himself captured. A boy, the boy we mentioned, Takebo?
They call him Take.
Take, yeah. Take, oh yes, Takebo. Bo might be another one of those little tack-on words that they use. He gets word to Tadafumi and his sister Kozasa, now played by Miwa Takada. Oh, we have a night when we're showing the 10 years later, we get this little scene of her brushing her hair next to the lake or the waterfall or whatever and singing a little song and just, oh, look, she's all grown up now and so pretty. And
which, honestly, I'm going to say, thank God for this song, because at this point in the movie, it's the only fucking thing that's, nice. Yeah. But I think it's meant to present her as the beautiful prisoner that she's about to be. Damn.
Just to show her being all nice, and she's having a relatively nice, pleasant life until she finds out how bad things are in the village.
Yeah.
So anyway, he tells them that their friend is a prisoner, and Tadafumi tries to rescue him only to discover it's a trap. With both awaiting executions, Shinobu tries to talk to the tyrant, warning him that the god of the mountain's curse will befall him should he continue his evil-doing ways. Samanosuke, refusing to heed Shinobu's words, kills her and orders the idol demolished.
Yeah, so now this character that we're so emotionally invested in, Shinobu, this aunt, who has kept everybody safe and is kind of the glue, the mom of the group, now she's dead too. And this death is so brutal and drug out. He stabs her several times, and several times she gets up to tell him about this god. This scene is so terrifying. I swear it's going to give me nightmares of him stabbing her and then her falling and then her coming up very grudge style, peeking through her hair you should fear God. I was just oh my word. This is so...
For a moment it kind of looked like she was maybe going to be unkillable, that the divine power was going to protect her, but no, the
he
stabs
just
get to her eventually.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was so brutal. So brutal. I understand that like some people like this is enjoyable and it's like I just oh god, I am not one of those people. I also have never like really I guess watched a samurai movie maybe. Like it's just not
Uh,
and so I was just like when are things going to be better?
Samurai movies were pretty popular around this time. I think they've always been fairly popular in Japan. But this same company produced some of Kurosawa's very famous samurai movies. I think Toho produced some of his movies as well. So it's not surprising that they would make a samurai movie. It's just weird that they threw a kaiju in as well. But they're trying to get that twofer. I do find it an interesting combination of things. With her dying breath, Shinobu curses Samanosuke to die a harsh, merciless death and declares that if he attempts to destroy the idol, the wrathful Arakatsuma sealed inside it will come out.
Yeah, there's the one time we hear Arakasuma.
Yes. The crew that travels up the mountain to smash the idol accidentally discovers Kozasa and Takebo and forces them to take them to the statue. The soldiers bring out an enormous chisel and proceed to hammer it into the idol's head. Well, first they bang it a lot with their hammers, and that does no good. So they pull out this like yard-long, 4 or 5 inch diameter chisel and bang it into the idol's head. They stop when they see blood beginning to drip from it. Horrified, the men attempt to flee, but the earth cracks open and swallows them. Kozasa begs the god of the mountain to save her brother and Kogenta and punish the wicked Samanosuke. At the fortress, Tadafumi and Kogenta are tied to large crosses, awaiting their fates. I just saw I guess it was a YouTube clip. It was, I don't want to say meme because it was a little longer than a meme, but it was a clip of, it was like in anime, everybody gets crucified or something like that. And it was just one shot after another of various anime and manga where various characters are being crucified. And I think part of the implication was that the people who are creating these things are not necessarily Christians themselves, but seem fascinated with the Christian imagery of crucifying one of the main characters.
I was wondering like why they were on crosses and being crucified like that. And I wondered how it like tied into the whole like God thing and whatnot. I think this is like I don't hear many Christians talk about this, but I have before heard Christians talk about like where there's like where God can be angry, right? Like I think like maybe is it the story of Babylon where like God is pissed off because everyone's like doing the wrong shit, so he like whatever. But it's like I feel like anger is such a human emotion, and that it's like such a that to think of like a vengeful, spiteful God like coming down and like killing bad guys and stuff, just I don't feel that. You know what I mean?
It's a thing Yahweh mostly does in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
In the New Testament, he kind of moves past that. But other gods in other religions certainly have their vengeful side. But that's partly, I think, an attempt to explain just the universe itself, reality itself. You know, sometimes when there's a hurricane or an earthquake or a tornado or whatever, it seems like the world is angry at you and out to get you.
Yeah.
Like nature is pissed off at you,
Sure.
which it isn't.
Right.
But if there's a God controlling nature, then it must be that God's mad at us.
Right. See, that's just like such a like that's like humans trying to like make sense of something that's like doesn't need to be made sense of. Like, you know, in my opinion, or I don't know. It's just weird.
I think, you know, in ancient times when we had a less understanding of why these storms and earthquakes occur, it was certainly easy to jump to the conclusion that
God is angry.
Somebody must be actually mad at us and out to get us.
Yeah.
But in this story, the god doesn't actually get angry until he is directly attacked. He's been sitting there for 10 years not doing shit. And it's not until the statue is directly assaulted.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't, again, this is where the theology is unclear. It doesn't seem like the good God has decided to release his vengeful servant to punish the wicked. It just seems like the device that has trapped the wicked God is being compromised, and so now the wicked God can get out. Anyway, everybody's being crucified, and they're awaiting their fates. And I have no idea if this was a common practice in feudal Japan or not, but it is in these movies. Kozasa offers her life to the god and attempts to throw herself over the nearby waterfall, but the rock and earth covering the lower half of the idol fall away and it comes to life. As it walks out into the clearing, Kozasa prostrates herself before it. The idol, animated by the reawakened Daimajin Arakatsuma, assumes a terrifying appearance and goes to Samanosuke's stronghold. So I mentioned before the very blank face the idol has.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it puts its hands up in front of his face, and when he brings them down, it's now turned into a green, angry-looking face with human eyes behind it. I mean, it's the eyes of the suit actor that's
Sure.
wearing the idol, but they're not just blank dots anymore. They are living eyes that look very angry. And I'll mention here that Chikara Hashimoto plays Daimajin.
Nice.
So it's kind of like when you do that thing where you put your hand down in front of your face and make a frown, and then put it back up and make a smile.
Yes.
Daimajin does that.
Exactly.
His blank face goes away and his angry green face.
And his angry green face has a butt chin. All hail the butt chin, am I right?
Yes. I believe his hands turn green too, because they're now
they
gonna
do.
move
Mhm.
more and grab. They're going to grab people. Daimajin rescues both Kogenta and Tadafume and proceeds to utterly destroy the fortress.
I couldn't tell if
So I
he
thought
was
you
like
liked this part.
rescuing Tadafumi at first, because he kind of like grabs his cross and like shakes it a bit, and I was like, what is he gonna save him or is he gonna kill him? Like, are you the good guy or the bad guy? I still am unsure. And then he like kind of just tosses it aside really lightly, and I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, but he doesn't set it he doesn't throw it forcefully, but he doesn't set it down gently either. He just kind of tosses it down, sort of lightly tosses it down. But yeah, he wrecks all the toys.
Yep. I will say a lot of the camera angles looking at Daimajin are really good. I feel like we get some different angles than any other movie that we've kind of done, where we're looking kind of, it's like the point of view of us looking up at him instead of where he's kind of far away and we're looking at him. We had a lot of good camera angles where we're looking up, and I really did like that. Yeah,
instead of the long shot of him wrecking the city, it's close and up, so it enhances the idea that he's a giant.
Yeah, it looks great.
So then he pulls the chisel out of his forehead and stabs Samanosuke with it. But then turns his wrath on everyone in sight. Takebo unsuccessfully begs Daimajin to stop, as the boy was about to get trampled on by the idol. Kozasa steps in and saves him.
Yeah, she throws herself on top of him.
Yeah, he's about to just step right on this kid, and she throws herself in the way, and this makes him stop. Kozasa tearfully pleads with Daimajin to cease its rampage, letting her tears fall on its stone feet. Its anger now quelled, Daimajin's spirit leaves the idol, restoring it to its former appearance, before it collapses into a heap of rubble. So
And
we
then
see
his
like a little ball
spirit,
of light.
Yeah, just zippity doo-dolls right back to the mountain.
Yeah. So I guess, so Daimajin is not literally the idol. It inhabits the idol. It was trapped in the idol. And now it leaves to do what? I mean, we're going to see him in the next two movies, but at the end of this movie, we're just left sort of, well, now what? If it's really an evil spirit, is it just going to go cause trouble?
And like the statue's gone now, so what's gonna steal it?
No, nothing. I'm saying, yeah, it's totally free now to go stir up whatever mischief it wants to. But it's not at all clear. I mean, they talk about him being an evil god trapped by the good god, but it isn't really clear. That doesn't actually seem to be what's happening. It seems more like kind of like the angel of death, like it's a servant of the good god. When the good god needs something bad done, he sends Daimajin to go do it. If I need a bunch of Egyptians killed, I send my angel of death to go do it. I don't do it myself. I got a guy for that.
I got a guy. I'll call my guy.
So, yeah, there you go. That is Daimajin.
How many
the great demon god. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I also tend to not watch TV shows that are, as I call it, unlikable people doing unpleasant things. I do generally enjoy a classic samurai film. I haven't seen that many of them, but I've seen some Kurosawa. I did find it interesting to combine the two genres of the samurai film and the kaiju. Apparently the rest of the world did not, since it was these three and then no more. And these are fairly obscure. They don't get the same kind of play that Godzilla and King Kong and
yeah, because who wants to sit through that? I'm so sorry. It's like, here's the thing is like, I think maybe if I was a little more prepared for the whole like samurai thing, I think I would have maybe, I don't know. I just was like going in like, woo, all right, monster movie of the day. And then it was just like people being fuckheads and doing like shit that people do, where it's like fighting, enslaving people, just greed, horrible, nasty things, and then saying like, "Oh, this god." I was just like not ready for this.
Do you want me to give you more of a? Do you want more of a heads up next time we're going in for something weird or unusual?
It wasn't, yeah, like you said, like a normal kaiju movie, and I guess because I'm not used to these movies being like people fighting with people. And so it was just like a lot of like people doing really fucked up shit to like other people. And I was just like, this isn't fun to me. This isn't entertaining to me. This isn't. And then even whenever like Daimajin comes out, I'm like, is he a good god? Is he a bad god? And then like, yeah, he spared the people and stuff, but he almost didn't. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm just like, I think that as far as like my first samurai movie goes, I think I could be open to explore different ones maybe. But as far as like kaiju movie goes, I'm like, this was not entertaining or enjoyable to me. I really just, it was hard for me to like.
As far as samurai films, just for your general cinema education, you should probably watch Seven Samurai, maybe Yojimbo. I think those are, along with some other Kurosawa movies, are on HBO right now.
Okay.
Definitely Seven Samurai, which I think I mentioned on this show before, has been remade multiple times in multiple genres. And then has been made, there's a comedic variant that has also been remade multiple times. So I would recommend watching the original. Seven Samurai is a village is being attacked by bandits. The villagers go hire samurai to defend the village. They hire some ronin, which are samurai.
Yeah. Okay. I know. I've seen something with that, with ronin. I know. I recognize that. I'm not sure what it is, but I've seen it.
A ronin's a general term for a masterless samurai who,
Okay.
He used to work for somebody, but now he's just kind of a sword for hire mercenary.
Heard.
So they hire one guy, and he's like, well, I'm going to need more than just me. So he gathers up 6 other guys, and they defend the village, but they also train the villagers to help defend the village, because 7's even well-trained samurai are maybe not enough to defeat an entire band of bandits. And the movie itself is about sort of the passing of an era, the ending of the samurai era. But it's been remade as a Western in The Magnificent Seven. It's been done
Okay.
as science fiction versions, fantasy versions, and then the comedic variation begins with the Three Amigos, in which the villagers intend to hire warriors but hire entertainers by mistake.
Nice.
Three Amigos did it first, but it's also been remade as A Bug's Life and Galaxy Quest. Those are all the same basic movie, just in different settings. So I recommend that if you want to see a good samurai movie.
Hell yeah.
And an important samurai movie. It's certainly an important in the history of cinema.
Nice.
But how many stars are you going to give it?
Okay. For the... Oh, God. I think I'm going to give it a 1.
Ouch.
I mean, maybe
Ouch.
a 2,
Okay.
maybe a 2. Here's the thing is, like, I think for me personally, it was a 1. But for, like, in the sense of, like, for our podcast in the kaiju world, I'll say it's a 2.
Okay. Well, I give it a 3. It's certainly not my favorite, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. I did find it an interesting variation. Oh, I did want to say it is pretty obscure, though, in that we found it archived on the internet, wink, wink, but it's not streaming anywhere. And if you want to purchase it, you got to buy an expensive collector's edition Blu-ray that I think might be out of print. So it's even more expensive now. I mean, it came out pretty recently, but I think it was a fairly limited run. So it's obscure, but the kind of thing that a certain sort of aficionado might be willing to pay $70 or $80 for a 3-movie set on Blu-ray in high definition. But partly just because it's been hard to find up until.
And to that aficionado, I say, do you need a hug?
Well, I myself have not paid that money to have that collector's set. If I saw it marked down on sale somewhere, maybe $20 I'd pay for it, but not $80.
If you have not been loved enough in your life and you need like a grandma or something, I'm telling you right now, throw this movie in the garbage can and call me. I'll be your new grandma.
All right, you'll be their auntie who lives up in the temple in the mountain.
Yeah, I'll be Aunt
in the
Shinobu.
Forbidden Zone.
I'll be your new Aunt Shinobu.
Okay. Well, folks,
you
there you
saved.
go. A 1 and a conditional 2 from Honeybee and a 3 from me. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. We'll be back next week. We will return with the return of Daimajin. So until then, please message us. Find us on all the interweb links and stuff. It's all there on our Anchor page, anchor.fm/mmftg. Write us, message us, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Until next week, I have been Precious D.
And I have been your grandmother, Honey Bee.
Remember to keep calm and seek shelter in basements.
Please don't misuse science.
We will not see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano folk rock punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.
Fun time go!